laser swords, force fields, and a young kitten's struggle as he's thrust into the buffest of cats' bodies, becoming a man before his time. Tune in as we break down Thundercats.
Joining us for another edition of Tune In For What? Well, today's episode is going to be quite exciting because it is Thundercats Ho!
Thundercats Ho! I am Dustin, and I am joined as always with my co-host and friend, Mr.
Alex.
All right, Thundercats. Whoa, boy, Thundercats.
So I think to start it off, we should say one of the most important things is that Thundercats predates us by just a hair. Like, it was definitely a couple years before we released, like a few years before we started watching cartoons growing up. We were both born in 84. This came out in 85. So, predates us. I didn't grow up with it, not even reruns.
No, likewise. I think I remember the toys and maybe the toy commercials. I think if I remember anything, that's what I remember. I remember it existing, but I definitely don't remember ever watching it or knowing anything about it. Wasn't played on the school ground as a kid. It's not my first memory. You know, it's not even in there.
Yeah, for me, first cartoon memory that I thoroughly remember would probably be the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I think that's probably
where like I was watching it, buying the cartoon or the toys, and like really knew it.
Maybe that or like Gummy Bears for me. I remember Gummy Bears, and when I go back and look at the dates, although I think Turtles will predates that, but we haven't done either of those episodes, so I don't have any facts yet on that.
I just remember watching more Turtles, or maybe it lasted longer, or more reruns in syndication or something. But yeah, totally foreign to Thundercats.
Yeah. I will admit, So there was a lot of misconceptions I had about this series. For starters, I thought it was
good.
Well, I don't know about that, but I thought it was an anime. I thought they had a lot of those shows at the time that were like, I thought like this, Transformers, Voltron, and Voltron still might be an anime. I don't know, but I thought those all came from Japan and they were just dubbed over.
They were like imported and dubbed.
That's what I thought. I thought for sure that was the basis of this. No, as it turns out. Although, well, kind of. So, and that's where it gets a little weird. Like, you know, kind of diving into the development of Thundercats. You know, I was really hoping that, you know, one of the things I love the most about doing this podcast right now is that every time we dive into it, I get to learn a little bit more about
all these interconnections and how people got career starts, but then they're also connected to other things, and then this series and that, and then they also did this and helped someone get their start, and
yeah. So like we did Dexter's Lab, and there was like a lot of history there. That was overwhelmingly. I was like, I don't have enough time to invest to learn.
A lot of
this.
Career starters.
Yeah, with all of that, and so this one was kind of a pleasant change of pace because I don't think it started anyone's career. I don't think it ended anyone's career, but it existed.
I was about to say it was a thing.
It was a
thing. It had some stuff, and
yeah. It was popular at its time and all that, and so I can respect that. But yeah, so kind of going back to the development aspect of it, it was pretty much produced, voice acted, and written here in the USA, but it was all animated in Japan. And so I thought, which you can tell right away from the intro.
God, that intro. That is a banging intro.
That intro is amazing.
I feel that we miss a little bit that in modern cartoons.
Yeah. Like, you know, like, don't get me wrong. We had the jingles that is like, yeah, you don't get me wrong. You get the jingle that is like, you know, the Ninja Turtles theme song. Like we all remember, you know, Turtles in a Half Shell. But like the animation alone in the Thundercats intro was incredible. I thought it looked really sharp and smooth.
That's where you can see the heaviest of like any kind of like anime.
Oh yeah, its influence is like heavily present. And so I thought that was great. And then it opens up with like written by Leonard Starr, and I was like, well, that doesn't sound very Japanese, although it is spelled with 2 R's. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Yeah, but and it was it was created by like Theodore Tobin Wolf, which, by the way, if I had a name like Theodore Wolf, I too would probably shorten it to like Tobin or something much cooler.
Tobin Wolf creating Thundercats?
Yeah, yeah. Well done. Well, and so diving into Tobin Wolf a little bit, this impressed me a lot because I was like, all right, what else has this man done? Nothing. He did Thundercats, and it was like, oh, okay. Well, he's got to do something else.
He's got to have some sort of background that got him into this world.
Yeah. Patents. He has filed several patents, 26 patents. This man was an inventor, creator, mostly around toys.
Did he, like, I didn't do nearly as much research as you did. Was it for a specific company, or is he just kind of this
Just
toy
creating
engineer?
patents. I mean, so truth be told, me diving into like patents and looking this stuff up, the website that I was using to find all of these wasn't real clear, and it was like the patent website, so it's written in that kind of like
Legalese.
oh
and,
boy,
yeah.
where I'm like, what the hell is this? And so,
You're not a patent lawyer on the side?
No.
definitely had some
I'm still going to
misconceptions
school
about
trying
you.
to finish up that degree in patent law. But so I wrote down just a couple of ones that I thought were kind of funny. It was like one was a peek in storybook. And I was like, so upon looking into that, it was basically a children's book with a bunch of different magnifying glasses where you could look to see hidden pictures, like on the spine or in the side or something. That was what I gathered from the
So
description.
like a Where's Waldo, but you're investigating the entire book.
The entire book, like, it has like magnifying glasses like equipped to the book, and so you're like looking through the book.
I have no idea why, but I'm thinking it's a safety hazard.
just throw it in the sun, the book just lights on fire. The other one, I thought this one was kind of funny, and also just I could see how bad this would work, which was a smoke generator for passive toy. That was the name of the patent. And it's basically toys that like you'd put in batteries and they would like create smoke. And I was like, no, that's a bad idea. Just you come into a kid's room, it's just billowing with smoke. Your He-Man's just smoking a cigar or something.
I'm just picturing kids picking up smoking and then blaming it on their toys.
Yeah, sorry, man. Lion-O's just really been, he's defective. He's just...
I accidentally left my He-Man on Mall.
Yeah, oh, man. And then non-tippable toy. A toy in which it can't fall over once fully erect, which is how it was written. And so that's how I'm going to read it.
Enough said, I think.
So, unlike most of us who maybe fall over when fully erect. Yeah. I'm keeping that in there.
That is awful.
Yeah, I know. And then combat action figures. These toys would engage in combat when used together. And I thought that was interesting.
When used to get...
Yeah, again, this
So
was how
other
it's
figures
written.
couldn't fight each other, but those two could.
Yeah, I think it's a little ahead of its time. I think what he was looking for was, I'm not trying not to get in the mind of Mr. Tobin Wolf here, but I imagine it was like they would maybe have catchphrases or say something if in the vicinity of the other toy. And it was like almost kind of like a Bluetooth kind of thing, maybe, or maybe they would move, or I don't know.
I'm very confused because, his patent would have been probably pretty early, like predating a lot of this tech. So I'm curious what his mechanism for making them fight each other is.
And then toilet sanitizer with disposable container.
That
Not a
actually
toy.
sounds pretty practical, and I like the idea of it.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. And but it is worth noting that probably one of the coolest things about Thundercats was the toys. Like, I was looking at some of the old toy commercials for Thundercats, and the big one was, and I think it was ahead of its time, but it was Lion-O had this little battery thing you pushed into his back, and it made his eyes light up.
What?
Yeah, and it was made by...
The future is now.
Right. Because, I had, like, the old Cyclops toy where I'd hit the back button and his, like, visor would glow, and I was like, whoa. But that was 90s,
Yeah.
So this was 85 that this thing came out.
Yeah, get with the time, Gramps. That's been around for a decade.
Apparently. Yeah, well, my Cyclops, I just had a little button. I didn't have to shove a battery up his ass to make his eyes light up.
Lion, uh-oh.
Oh, Thundercats! Oh, right. Yeah, it's gonna be a good episode. I can already tell this one's gonna be the fun one. And so, oh man, where was I? Oh, I got off track there with toys and the batteries up Lino's ass.
Are we good on patents right now?
I think we're good on patents. So
tune in next time when we talk patent law.
I was going to get into marine biology, but that's fine. Patent law's fine. Oh, boy. Oh. So the company that made it was, it changed a bunch of hands, but it was best known as like the Rankin-based Productions. And they were pretty well known for doing like the old like Rudolph specials. And
the one
like
that's yearly.
Yearly, yeah. So that was like the big one. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And so I kind of normally we talk about kind of the writers and stuff, but I actually kind of want to save the Leonard Starr stuff as we start to talk about the episodes, just because he was one of the main writers along with others, but there were several other like writers, and we watched. So to kind of get ahead of ourselves a little bit here, we watched 7 episodes of the first season, which consists of 65 episodes. Enough to kind of get a feel for it, for sure.
Definitely got a feel for it, and for better or worse, we got a feel.
Right. And so let's go ahead and break down the characters of the show, the main characters.
So I tried to break down the entire world of Thundercats into one sentence.
Ooh, all right. What do you got?
Because there's a lot going on when you get into the mythology, which we're not going to do a deep dive into the mythology on this. Some of it I'll throw out some tidbits. But I think that the world, before we get into the characters, can just be summed up, and I put easiest explanation: the adventures of a group of cat-like humanoids, Thundercats, whose planet Thundera is destroyed, on a planet called Third Earth, and their battles with the sorcerer Mumra, mutants, and other baddies.
I feel like you nailed it. Yeah, from everything I watched of those 7 episodes, hit the nail on the head.
I mean, I do have details of seasons 1 through 4 of like all the madness that occurs, but I think that's the gist. Is just they're on this planet Third Earth, things happen, they react, they battle some baddies. Later on, there's a new Thundera. They go and lather, rinse, repeat on that, and live happily ever after.
Yeah, I read a little bit where it was so Mumra being the central villain.
Yeah, we could probably go into characters now before getting into like overarching seasons.
Yeah,
or
let's do that. So who is the leader of the Thundercats, Alex?
Lion-O.
Yeah.
He is a boy trapped in a man's body, just like Tom Hanks in Big.
Yeah, his whole story opens up with planets being destroyed, kind of a Krypton story. He gets thrown into a suspended animation with the other Thundercats. But his is defective.
Has a leak, we'll say.
Yeah. And so he ages, I think, roughly about 10 years. So he's 12 years old in about a 22-year-old's body or something. He's in a sexy, grown, full
Which is
man.
creepy when Chitara calls him handsome, and they are making like references to how good he looks, knowing that he's mentally a 12-year-old.
So yeah, let's talk about Chitara. She is your token female Thundercat on the team. She is based off the cheetah, so she possesses, of course, super speed. She has a sixth sense to tell when trouble is near and can see visions, which I thought was interesting.
Lets her see past and future events is how I saw it described.
Yeah. So, and then, honestly, probably my favorite character, which is going to be Panthro.
I did not think you were going to go with Panther as your favorite. We'll talk about your favorite later.
Oh. Oh, God. So, Panthro, based on the Panther, brute force, and he's like super smart mechanic. Dug him. And then we've got...
You did a totally different order than I have, so we'll go with Tigra.
Yeah, there you go.
He is technically the Thundercats council leader. So technically he's kind of like second in command right underneath Lion-O.
Mm-hmm.
But he's staunch and level-headed. But my favorite is he can turn invisible. Because why not?
Why not?
Why not?
He uses a whip, turns invisible. Invisible only got one weakness, which is water. He can't be in water.
Just like most cats. But did you not know about his mental power?
Well, he also has a mind power.
It's called mind power.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I don't think I witnessed that in any of the episodes we watched.
He does it in the trials, in the anointment. He does that, I think, to do one or two of the trials.
That makes sense.
But what it is the ability to create lifelike illusions in others' minds.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Good on him. Then we got Wily Kit and Wily Cat, who are based on the Wildcats. And they're just kind of kids. I
They're just kind of there. I think they said that they're just a tiny bit older than Lion-O at the beginning.
Yeah.
So they're about the same age, a little older. We'll say a year just for the sake of a number.
You know, given their age and how close they are to Lion-O, like age-wise in the beginning in that intro episode, I really expected Lion-O to have like a friendship, a better friendship with them than like the friendships with the other Thundercats.
Maybe it's because of the classic, like he's royalty, and even though they're all Thundercat nobility, but he's royalty. Maybe it's like put up and like on a pedestal and not really associated with them much because he's being groomed and trained.
Yeah, and then there is Snarf. Oh, Snarf.
Who is hands down animation's greatest character ever.
Oh, hi. Oh man, I don't know what they were going for with Snarf. They were like, that's good with the kids right now.
Comedic. It's supposed to be the comedic or the Eeyore version of.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of like Eeyore.
He's not even a Thundercat.
No,
he's like a Snarf. Like that's his race also.
Yeah,
or
he was
something.
kind of like Lion-O's nanny growing up.
Nursemaid is exactly how how it was told to me.
Yeah, it was like, oh, yeah. And then there was Jaga.
Ghost Dad.
Yeah, who dies right off the bat in the first episode, but proceeds to be in every episode thereafter as like a vision that I believe only Lion-O can see.
It's like a ghost mentor that gives him like hints and advice, especially how to use the Sword of Omens.
Yeah, especially the Sword of Omens.
Because actually Jaga was the rightful, like that was his sword prior to Lion-O taking it on.
Gotcha. And then in the first episode, we're introduced to the mutants, who are. They're the enemies. We don't really get much backstory on them, just that they are the worst, and there was
a battle or a war with them on Thundera, and that was kind of the gist of it. Like they
want the eye of Thundera for some reason.
Powerful.
Yep. And so they're chasing them. They blow up the other ships out of the sky.
Just a note, we have mentioned the Sword of Omens that was Yaga's, and now it's Lion-O's. The Eye of Thundera is based in the hilt area region of that. Mm-hmm. Just to throw out, if we say the sword, the eye and that are kind of interchangeable for the most part.
Yeah. So those I would say, and then you got Mum-Ra. He shows up in the second episode and is predominantly the main villain throughout the rest of the series, which is basically the reincarnation of evil. Let's say I have written here, ever living source of evil. As long as there is evil, there is Mum-Ra.
Yeah, and he serves the ancient spirits of evil, which are four godlike entities, and they give him power and magic and immortality in exchange for his servitude. And the whole thing is to just keep the reign of evil going on Third Earth. That's kind of the gist of it.
Which Third Earth, after Thundera explodes, they end up kind of stranded on Third Earth, which is, funny enough, I believe is First Earth. Just gone through a couple of apocalypses.
It's real unclear if it's like the third planet and all that. So
because Excalibur is there, and
they allude that it's same Earth we're on, but it's like generations and eons later.
Way in the future.
At least like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So those are. I don't know if you have any other characters written down, but those were the ones I was like the main characters outside of the little guest appearances from the Burbles and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I left out all the other weird characters we can talk about some of them that were in the episodes we watched. Yeah. But I think the core of it is who we named. Yeah. I can tell you fun facts about how Yaga just ruined everything.
Yeah, get into that. This is news to me.
This is just something I read that I'm not sure where they divulge it, whether it's via the series, comics, whatever. But when I was reading, apparently Yaga was indirectly responsible for the destruction of Thundera. And it was because during the battle, he was able to seize the Sword of Plundar, which is, I guess, the evil equivalent to the Sword of Omens. from like the lead mutant or whatever. But when he seizes it, he casts it down into the deepest canyon on Thundera, where it is embedded into the core of the planet. The sword, because similar to the Sword of Omens, I guess it can react on its own, suddenly starts trying to escape the core, causing explosive tremors that leads to the destruction of Thundera. So Yaga, in the first episode, when they were watching Thundera explode right before their eyes, is very nonchalant about it. I secretly think he knew it was going to happen, and he's like, yeah, that's on me. My bad.
Yeah, that first episode, I think that was the part that cracked me up the most, was just, and we joked about that. I think we watched most of the first episode together. But
yeah, like the first half together.
Yeah, and I just kind of laughed because it was like, he sure is nonchalant about his whole planet just being blown
and
up in
Lion-O
front
looked
of him.
shocked like he accidentally dropped a sandwich. Like, no, that was my lunch.
Like, oh, no. Yeah, I'm going to go take a nap.
And I don't think anyone else references it.
No.
Like, none of the other Thundercats say anything. They're just like, well, that was our planet.
Yeah. The one thing I really do appreciate, and I noticed this, I think, in the time capsule episode in the first episode, is anytime that they are, before the Sword of Omens is in Lion-O's possession, those cats are nude. Those are some naked cats.
It is weird. So I guess we'll just go into the first episode, because we're talking so much about it.
Yeah, which was called Exodus.
Yes, Exodus. Yeah, I noticed that too, because at first I was like, I thought the Thundercats had clothes, like, in general, like, images I've seen of them, but somehow, like, when they're on their ship, they're just nude, except for, like, Yaga has a cape, and I think Chitara has a belt.
Yeah, I wrote here, more clothes equal more dignity. Jaga, clearly the king.
What is Chitara's belt holding up?
I noticed that. She was wearing a belt. There's nothing there. It's just like, just have a belt to have a belt.
I mean, it's definitely probably got a lot of kids thinking about their sexuality and have triggered a lot of furry fantasies.
Yeah. You kind of did a bit of you were doing a little bit of a dive into the furry. I mean, you are a resident expert on furry and furry like things, Alex. So what can you tell us about furries? Does that predate Thundercats or is it after? Thundercats?
I literally read 5 minutes, so I guess comparatively to Dustin and myself, I am the expert. No, it looked like it does predate it. Of what they attribute it to, like, cartoons done in like the 40s, and it was like those weird underground comics. Okay. Underground comics from like the 40s or something. And that's about all I know. I just know that Thundercats did not start the furry trend. But I'm sure there's a lot of fanfic and cosplayers who would say otherwise.
This is why I wanted you on this podcast, because I knew you were a furry expert with all your experience, so this was really going to help.
I did read 5 minutes online. Makes me an expert. I mean, people can be ordained ministers in that time frame.
That's true. There was there was a phrase that's used early on that I had to appreciate by Lion-O when they tell him, like, the mutants are attacking. And again, the whole nonchalantly, like, people dying and all of that, they blow up every other ship out of the sky. They kill all people who've escaped Thundera except their ship. And they're like, they barely acknowledge it. It's like, oh no.
All of our brethren.
Yep.
The only thing they really acknowledge is the fact of why they're not getting destroyed, and it's for the Eye of Thunder.
Which I did appreciate that they at least acknowledged that part of it, which was like, no, they're after the sword. So I was like, yeah, okay. So then the mutants storm the ship with this big, weird, like, cylinder thing. They, like, shove basically a bottle into the ship and storm the ship. They find Lion-O, who's got the Sword of Omens. Now, keep in mind, Lion-O at this point is 12 years old. This is before suspended animation.
He can't really even lift the sword up.
No.
Until the sword hooks a brother up with some power.
Yeah. The sword starts to glow. He gets a lightsaber thing. The mutants freak out and run off, which makes me wonder, what the hell was a mutant plan?
Yeah, they run in, see the sword. It's in the hands of a 12-year-old.
And they're like, nope, I'm out. Like,
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with this. I was like, yeah, okay. Let's do that then. And then, so they leave. The ship is damaged. They're basically, they need to do like a crash landing. Or no, they're trying to find a place to live. Sorry, the ship's not so much it is damaged, but it's not damaged in a way that like
This part was a little confusing because they're like, it's too damaged. We need someone to fly it manually.
yeah, we need to fly it manually, and it's like
We can't go to our original destination, which they never really say.
They never said what the destination was. It was just a flee. They find Third Earth is the most like inhabited, but it's
habitable,
10 light years away.
10 galacto years.
10 galacto years away.
I wrote it because they say that in episode 2.
So it was 10 galacto years away. So they freak out. They're like, oh God, like let's get into suspended animation because the only way we'll survive.
Somewhere in all this confusion, some weird magic happens, and now they all have clothes.
Oh yeah, they get like magical clothing.
Which is the most bondagey looking and
Oh,
spandex oriented.
Panthro, man. Woo,
He's
boy.
ready to party.
Yeah, I recommend if you all don't know what we're talking about, just go look up a good picture of Panthro. And that is a
Look up Panthro furry outfit.
yeah, he is a power bottom to the max. Wow, he is something. So it I'm not gonna lie, it did a little something for me, Panthro. That was a hell of an outfit. Chitara barely gets anything else. I think it's
Just some spandex and a staff to fight with.
yeah, and yeah, it was.
Just a lot of spandex, except for Panthro, who thoroughly gets like some bond. Like
Yeah,
some
he's got like a
bondage
weird,
gear.
some bondage gear going on, which I appreciated.
So jump to suspended animations where we left off, and then
Yeah, so Jaga basically tells them, I'm not going to make it. Somebody's got to
old.
fly this thing manually, and I wouldn't, like, suspended animation, you still age, but you age slower, so I probably would die anyways in suspended animation, so just go ahead and leave me here. So, and then Lino kind of reluctantly says, like, no, and then immediately was like, yeah, okay.
But then my favorite part was then, so Yaga sits down at the controls, starts piloting the ship. We're not sure exactly how long.
Like, it looks like 2 minutes after they've gone into the pause, and he's like,
Well, I don't know if it's supposed to be like represent a time jump. Like
Okay,
either
yeah.
like you know what I mean?
if it was, they did a real poor job of illustrating that.
And then he's pretty much like, okay, well, I've flown it long enough. Time for me to go away.
Yep, time to
And then he
die.
hits a button, throws it on autopilot, which they said they shouldn't do. And then how does he die?
Ether just turns into a mist. All he leaves behind is a cape.
Turns into dust and is gone.
Yep.
So apparently that's what happens to Thundercats when they die.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then so the ship lands on Third Earth, kind of crashes. Lino is the first one out of his suspended animation. It gets like rocketed from the ship. So him and Snarf, I think, are the first two up. It's always Snarf.
Him
Yeah.
and Snarf to the end
Yeah.
of days.
And then the mutants, who, without explanation, are just like on their tail the whole time.
Yeah, so I'm like, could they not have gotten them in space? Like,
could
how
have
long
gotten
have they
them when
been
the,
following them?
Yeah, there are so many holes in that. Were they also in suspended animation? How old are the mutants now?
Like,
Do the
they're just
mutants
immediately,
age?
like, instantly, they're like,
yeah.
oh, there they are.
Yeah, like they've been there the whole time. Yeah, no, suspended animation was really just a clever way to age Lino. Like, they wanted you to relate with, like, Lino was clearly going to be the hero, but we wanted kids to be able to relate to this character. So we needed to have, like, a 12-year-old stuck in, like, a grown man's body, you know? It was...
Very, very handsome grown man
Yeah.
with
let's not
bountiful
forget
biceps.
that. So here's the thing that I thought was funny. The music for the theme song, a lot of the music in Thundercats, honestly, I thought was great. Love
Pretty
the
good.
music. Yeah. I was like, wow, this is solid. But the music when he fights those mutants on that planet for the first time was very reminiscent of Captain Kirk fighting the lizard-like alien with the rock. It was like, it reminded me so much of that, like, original Star Trek.
I would have to
music.
definitely go see that scene again before I could speak to
Oh,
that.
yeah, I had to write it down. I was like, what is going on with this music for as cool? And, like the music up until this point has been great. And then this.
Just seemed a little off.
Oh, there was definitely some points where the music didn't always hit the notes I wanted it to hit.
Looking at you, Chitara theme song.
Oh, the Chitara theme song is definitely one of those. Absolutely killed it for me every time. So, yeah, and then, so he fights off the mutants, he gets the Sword of Omens, does the Thundercats hoe.
This is also, I think, the first time we see Ghost Dad
Yeah.
somewhere around this point.
Yeah. Jaga's like, I've been with you. I'll always be with you, Lion-O.
Thanks, Ghost Dad.
He does the Thundercats. Oh!
And it throws up pretty much a bat signal, but in the Thundercats logo.
Yeah, which rockets all the Thundercats out of suspended animation. And then they proceed to fight off the mutants, who once again flee, having no plan. Like,
the mutants pretty much have no plan, no real leader. Like, it's just all a mess.
and then we get to the part where it's like the ship is destroyed. They have no food or no. They don't talk about anything else. The episode just kind of ends with them standing around. Oh, it ends with Chihara and Tigra both making some inappropriate comments at Lion-O's, like how handsome Lion-O is. Like, Tigra's definitely like, damn, look at you. And I was like, oh, Tigra, that's Tigra definitely eye fucking him a little bit on that one.
Which is fine if it wasn't a 12-year-old's mind.
That's kind of the thing, though. He's still 12 years old. It's creepy. It's creepy. Let's just say it. Well, let's call it as it is.
Let's leave it there.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
And then from there we get to like, that's the end of episode. Just everyone laughs at Lion-O and how handsome he is, and then we move on to episode 2.
Which I did notice, like, every episode has that 80s ending where there has to be some lame joke, and then everyone's laughing, and then it cuts away. And it's like, yeah, that's how it should end. A good laugh at someone's expense about something that happened in the episode. So then the second episode is the Unholy Alliance, which is the introduction of Mumra.
Yeah.
This one was interesting, the intro to Mumra. Then it got weird with the fight between...
Yeah. This episode, a stronger beginning than an ending for sure. Now, this one was also written, so, like I said, we'll get into that once we get through episode 4. The first 4 episodes were written by the same guy, and that's going to be important as we talk about some of the stuff that happens, the episodes we watched after this. But... so right off the bat, I think my favorite part with Unholy Alliance is it opens up, and they're pretty much opens up exactly where episode 1 left off. Like, they're still at the discarded ship, and it's all broken down. Panthro's scrapping it for parts, and rather than saying, I can build a home out of this, he's like, I'm gonna build a tank. And it's like,
yeah, immediately goes for the tank above all else.
I was like, shouldn't you want, like, don't you want a house or a home? And he's like, no, man, I want a tank. That's what we need here. Like, I don't know what's on this planet. Building a tank. I was like, okay.
Builds it pretty quick, too.
He did, yeah. He formed that tank, like... well, I mean, he's Panther. He's like, he's pretty much Donatello. He does machines. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
And then they give a... so this is where Lion-O gets the shield, which has no explanation.
And it's not like a traditional shield.
No.
It's just a power glove.
Yeah, it's shaped like a cat.
Yeah, it's like a gauntlet that you would have with like a piece of armor, but it's just that. That's it. It doesn't grow in size or have anything that comes out that can block anything. You just use it as a shield.
But it's super powerful and flexible. He can still use it like a hand. Yeah. And at some point it's got a grappling hook. They don't use it in this episode, but I definitely
I saw it later on, and I was like, oh, that's a new power. Just like everything in this show, someone has something that can do a thing that they're going to introduce way later.
Yeah, they have no problem changing the rules of the show at all. They're like, oh, okay, so what are we doing now? And it's like, well, now the short suit's lasers. I was like, oh, what about now? And now it's got a force field, and now it can fly. And it's like, okay, all right, Sword. Like, let's dial it back a little bit.
You can't just keep doing everything.
So, anyways, we're back to this episode. So he gets the shield, which, by the way, just sticks to his leg. I love it. There's
more of a hip.
Yeah, yeah. He just puts it on like a hip thigh area.
You didn't see the Velcro?
Snaps on. Yeah. It just snaps onto his leg like a magnet. And I was like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. And I was like, and I did right here, magic, static. Question mark?
Before he puts it on, he has to rub it on his hip for a moment.
And then just sticks to his side. Oh. And then I add it right here again, because once again, the mutants, being kind of the key focus here, they're flying looking for the Thundercats, and they fly over the Black Pyramid.
Yeah, which we soon discover is Mumra's lair, pretty much.
Yeah, so the mutants land, and... well, they got to get forced down. I think Mumra shoots them out of the sky with lightning.
Yeah, there's a bunch of lightning and stuff going around the pyramid.
So the mutants land, they're afraid to go into the pyramid. Although one of them says that like they are not the ones who fear. And it was like, mutants, we fear nothing. I remember them, they specifically say that, like, we are not the ones who fear. And I was like, I don't know, and I wrote down here, it's like, says the mutants who have now ran away 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, the 12-year-old with the sword scared him off enough in the first episode.
Right. Yeah, like, these mutants are afraid of everything. Like anything will rile up these mutants. They're like, nope, we're getting out of here.
There's an episode just entirely about them going to bed and not checking under their bed. An entire episode.
I would watch
or
that.
That could be a lie, but it'd be a great episode.
Yeah. There's 130 episodes, so it wouldn't surprise me if one of them is just like something living under one of their beds. A ball of light greets the mutants, and then it's like, cool.
Then they follow it.
Yeah, like follow the light, and it leads them to Mumra, our first introduction of like the decrepit, like ancient Egyptian who, and this is where we get the first acknowledgement that this is
First Earth. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he mentions that it's First Earth, or I think how it comes up is he says, I've been here since First Earth.
Since this was called First Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then, so from there, like, Prince Mumra, like, basically tries to send the mutants out to do something. And
He's not a prince. Did you say Prince Mumra?
I did say Prince Mumra.
Is he a prince?
No. Sorry. I misspelled that. I wrote price because there's a price Mumra pays if he leaves the pyramid.
Oh,
They don't
yes.
say what it is. Sorry, yeah, he's not Prince. So he's probably a pharaoh, I think. Wouldn't surprise me if they kind of go into that at some point.
I don't know. I thought he was just more of a sorcerer because he's a master of magic is what they say.
Because he has to, like, sleek away and do his, like, sarcophagus every time.
That's like his charge up, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know enough about Mumra. I didn't do a lot of Mumra research.
You're not a mumhead?
Not a mumhead. Although I didn't watch any episodes with Mumrut either, because apparently he gets like a dog.
Yeah, apparently he also...
Mutt or something?
I think... Oh. No, it's Mutt-Ra, I think.
Mutt-Ra, is that what
I
it
don't
is?
know.
Yeah.
There's also 3 episodes where he gets super powered even more than his second phase. Or second form.
I think that's in the second season.
Yeah, I think it only happens like 3 times, they say.
Yeah. Anyways, the mutants go out, and then Lion-O's on his own because he's like scouting the area to prove that he's a man.
The one quick thing is that Mumra pretty much forces the mutants to work for him. He eats up he makes their ships sink into the ground so they can't fly off the planet and they're stuck. So he pretty much forces them by being like, I'm all powerful, don't cross me. And so the mutants are kind of working for him. And all he wants is the Eye of Thundera. That's all.
Yeah, he also wants the Eye of Thundera.
And this is all just power grabs. So now we have 2 factions, Mumra and the mutants, that sort of work together.
Hence the Unholy Alliance. It's in the title. But, so Lion-O's on his own. He's like, he tells the other Thundercats to kind of eat it. He's like, I don't need your help. I'm a man. I'm 12 years old in a man's body. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to go scout the area. I'm going to protect us. And he goes out. And then the sword first the sword, he finds some deer. And he's
like a 12-year-old with a new toy.
He's like, I'm going to go kill that deer. And it's like, and the sword immediately won't let him. He's unable to withdraw the sword.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, that's a nice thing being like, hey, kids, if you find your dad's sword, don't go killing killing recklessly.
That's just a good PSA right there.
The more you know.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then so Ghost Dad appears, and he's like, whoa. You can't go killing deer with that sword. That sword protects nature and things. And Lionel's response was like, well, I was just playing. And it was like, you were going to murder that deer.
Would have been great if he's just like, you're not my dad.
You're not my real dad. So the sword then... They resolve their feelings, him and the sword, and...
They hug it out. Why not? Sure.
And then the sword starts to, like, beep at him, and it's like, there's trouble afoot. And I think this was probably one of my favorite parts.
Is it the sight beyond sight usage?
So the sword has the ability to see danger and kind of work almost like a telescope. And actually, I really like the way this works. The way
when they use it appropriately, it actually totally is legit, but not in this case.
The hilt kind of curves around in his eye. It lines up with his eyes, and so it's like really kind of cool looking.
Oh, and the music when they do it, I freaking love. Just some awesome 80s synth. It's real specific, and it's the theme for the Sight Beyond Sight.
Yeah, and it's like sight beyond sight. But this time he uses sight beyond sight to show him the danger, and it shows him the mutants. And then the camera pans away, and the mutants are about 4 feet in front of him. I could not wrap my head around that.
I really tried to give it some thought to give the writers some credit. And my only thought is that they were teleported there by Mum-Ra, so maybe when he's looking around, it shows him the point at which they appear.
Sure, that could be.
But don't get me wrong. When it cuts away and it's 4 feet away, the whole time I'm just like, Lion-O needs some contacts.
Yeah, so he beats the mutants again. And Mum-Ra's like, you know what? You want anything done, you gotta go do it yourself.
Which this fight reminded me of They Live, where it just went on far too long, and you're just like, oh, it's just not good. It's just a lot of Matador moves from Mum-Ra.
Yeah, so Mum-Ra does his incantation, which I can't remember the incantation off the top of my head, but it basically...
it's when he asks for powers from the ancient spirits of evil.
It allows him to become, I think it's Mum-Ra the Ever-Living, I believe is the name.
Yeah, I think actually the Ever-Living, yes.
Yeah, so he becomes the Mum-Ra the Ever-Living. And so as Mum-Ra the Ever-Living, he turns into like a super buff Mum-Ra. He's just with wings, grows wings, flies out of the pyramid, goes, finds Lion-O, proceeds to just fly at him. Doesn't have any real dialogue with him right away. Just kind of flies.
He might say something here and there because Lion-O learns his name is Mum-Ra.
He does tell him that he's Mum-Ra at one point, but I think he's really only got 1 or 2 lines, and the fight does go on for a long time.
And they just kind of run at each other, and then Mum-Ra kind of fly jumps over
every time.
Lion-O.
Yeah. Lion-O jumps at him. Yeah, and then Mum-Ra does that laugh, and he does like a Skeletor laugh, like
80s villain cartoon laugh.
Yeah, he just continues to do that laugh, like he'll fly. And it's like okay.
So now 18 minutes later.
Yeah. So that fight goes on. His sword gets like thrown into the tar pit. He pulls it out.
Oh, it's when you learn it can't have the power if the eye is blocked or covered.
Yeah. So it does tell us that little bit of history about the sword there.
It's real quick, but it's probably the only useful piece of knowledge in this fight.
Well, they're too peaceful.
You're talking about Mum-Ra's weakness.
Yeah, so Mum-Ra has got Lion-O pinned to the ground. Lion-O can't get out. He can't call for help. He's screwed.
And he puts up the arm with the shield on it.
Yeah, he puts up his shield, which shows his reflection, Mum-Ra's reflection, and Mum-Ra loses it.
Which we're still not sure why, and maybe it explains it in an episode at some point, but I never saw exactly why Mum-Ra's weakness is his appearance.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Because even when he's in the buff form, he sees his
decrepit
self.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, and then after that, that's kind of that. Mum-Ra flies away. He goes back, tells the Thundercats, like some stuff went down, and it's like, well, okay, that's
end of episode.
End of episode, yeah. So, and then, this episode. Do you want to talk about episodes that don't hold up too well? Burbles?
You better not be talking about my burbles.
Yeah, burbles. Oh. I wrote here my first note. I'm trying to remember a lot about this episode, but first note, Panthro loves his tank.
My first note was Mum-Ra wakes up from his nap because he's at the very beginning of the episode and you see him coming out of the sarcophagus. And then it's him looking at his magic pool to see what's going on. Then I think it cuts to Panthro in his tank, which I put Thunder Tank coming to a KB Toys and Toys R Us soon.
You could tell the amount of toy sales they were really gunning for with a lot.
Yeah, they were talking pretty much about how sweet this tank was, and all the characters are like, "You did a great job, Panthro."
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then it starts raining boulders,
which I put the music rips during Stone Storm. Just another point where I noticed the music and I'm like, Jesus, this music is kicking at times.
Yeah. Oh, the music is by far the best part about Thundercats. Love the music. Most of the time.
Why was there a Stone Storm? Why not?
Yeah, they don't ever tell you.
No, it's just raining.
Oh, no, raining. And it's not like it's raining rocks. It's raining boulders.
Yeah, they have to run into their ship.
Mm-hmm,
they crash landed to
So the
hide.
spaceship gets covered in rocks, but thankfully, Thunder Tank
can dig it out because it has claws. like every tank should. They can burrow like a mole.
2 cat claws at the front of it, yeah.
But it's more of a mole tank versus a Thundercat tank. Anyways.
Proceeds to lift up the tank and or lift up the whole spaceship.
Yeah.
And and I was like, wow, that's some tank.
Yeah, it's a mechanical marvel. For some reason at this point, I said too much snarf. So I don't know if that was at this point or like minutes later, but either way, I think that can go without being said that every episode that features snarf is too much snarf.
It's too much snarf. Oh man, yeah.
We don't need to spend much time on the episode, The Shifter later, except for the fact that it was far too much snarf.
That was a snarf heavy episode. Yeah, and so yeah. Oh, that's what I wrote. Thundercat tank has arms like a hungry hippo.
Oh, it really is. Yeah. No. It moves exactly like their heads do.
If you were to hit the hungry hippo to eat the pellets, that's what the arms do. They just kind of reach out and dig in that motion. It's it's crazy weird. So
my mind didn't go there, but I can totally see it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, all right, well, there's a toy sale waiting to happen. Oh yeah, and then they find a lock that they can't get into. And then Lino just breaks it with the hilt of the sword. It's just I was like, oh, what can't this sword do? This sword can do it all.
What's funny is later on, sword does another new power, and I wrote the exact same thing. I'm like, what are the exact powers of the sword?
Yeah, can we get a detailed list of all the things this thing can do?
Oh, anything. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Cheetah does something. She's fighting. Oh no, I'm reading the wrong episode. I'm screw my notes. Nope, sorry.
Come on, man, get to the burbles.
Oh, the burbles. Yeah. So the tank's gonna have Space Rhino, twice as big as Snarf, equals Lino shit at math. That's what I wrote. So that's what it is. They're on the run. They find a Space Rhino, and Snarf is chasing off the rhino.
And Snarf's like, Lino, I got this.
Yeah. So So he's wants to prove his worth to Lino. And he chases it off, and Lino looks and he's like, "Geez, Snarf, that thing's twice as big as you."
The thing is massive.
I was like, Lino's real shit at math.
No, he needs glasses again. Remember from the Sight Beyond Sight
Sight
incident?
Beyond Sight. Oh no, I'm real. Yeah.
But Snarf does it through a bunch of just an error, or a comedy of errors, and somehow defeats this rhino for the most part.
Then they fall, and Lino falls into a pit, and then Snarf has to try to rescue him, but in the process of rescuing him, gets kidnapped.
Unsurprisingly, because it's Snarf.
Oh, the Snarf, yeah, he's worthless. So he's getting pulled away, and it's by these robot teddy bears.
Yeah, which just creepy. I'm just imagining what their toy looks like, and they're just weird looking.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But so they capture Lino from in the hole. So they're kidnapping him and Snarf, and then Lino pretty much just talks his way out of it, saying "Nah, we're friends. We're from," and he points up, and then their weird miming conversation has to do with the fact that we're not here to harm you. We fell from space.
So let's talk real quick about the burbles.
I was just about to say the burbles' voices,
or
lack of, or their pitch corrected, auto tuned to the.
That was the auto tuning.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's just technology these days is picking up too much sound to where it's you can hear all of it, but I had a hell of a time.
I don't know if that's what they were going, exactly what they were going for. If it was just wanted to sound lack of technology, or
it was to sound robotic, so they almost auto-tuned somebody saying these voices.
But you could only understand maybe half of it.
Yeah. Oh, it was kind of if you put something. It reminded me if you were to do a cassette recorder and you recorded it into it and then ran it through a dishwasher. And then you went to play it back, and it's wow, it's I'm well, I can tell you try to say something. I can't make any of it out.
It's pretty bad. And the only time it improves a tiny bit, it's when the leader of the burbles talks.
Yeah, he's got a different voice, and I think it's because his voice is a little deeper that you can kind of pick up a little bit more of what he's trying to say.
Which I think his name or the collective burble name is Robert Burbles, but I think that might be the leader.
Yeah, I think that was just
his name is Robert Burble.
Robert Purple. Oh, boy.
So pretty much they free Snarf and Lion-O, and then they give them a tour of their farm and their countryside, which is
Yeah,
like super pretty out of nowhere, and they
For-
grow candy fruit and all this stuff, and I don't really know why these robots are growing food.
Yeah, you don't see the robots eat the food, but they're growing a lot of food, and then they're getting hunted for their food.
Yeah, so why would you grow food to be hunted when you don't need...
Yeah, it's so these like what is it like these lizard people I think come out looking for
Lizard or like dog-like or
something like that. So they come out and they look. They're like, oh, we want the food. Like we need the food. And so Lion-O, they keep telling Lion-O not to get involved, and Lion-O is like, no, I got this.
This was actually, I thought, kind of interesting.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it wasn't just like, no, we've got this handled. I'll let you. But it was like I found it super interesting of why they didn't want Lion-O to get involved.
Yeah, well, first of all, I make note of the sword's other power where he just screams ho, I think, and it just has a weird light and it just scares them off.
It's a force field.
Yeah, the force field power. And I was like,
that's where I wrote is what are the powers of this sword, because it's like whatever he needs, it'll just do it. It already has the power available.
Yep. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
He got the fully loaded package with the sword.
So they run off. And the Burbles basically tell him, like, look, they actually are pulling the fruit to give to these giants. Because the giants
are lazy and guarding these
their
dog lizard
food like
sources.
Yeah, they're guarding the lizard food sources. So they send them out to do their dirty work for them. I thought this was all, I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like the fact that there's like kind of this whole economy and weird ecosystem. They'll never resolve it. In fact, I don't think they ever resolve the giants or the lizard people.
No, but there's a fight with everyone.
Yeah.
Because eventually the Thundercats join, and there's like a little burble feast, and I think they battle the giants. Like, this is where the rest of the episode just kind of like your standard...
start to fall apart.
Your standard, like, oh, Thundercats, ho, here's the Thundercats. Now we fight against these giants, and...
Yeah, and that's kind of it. Lion-O fights against the giants. He gets picked up by something. Is it Mum-Ra? It's Mum-Ra again, right? I think Mum-Ra shows up.
Oh, this is where I wrote Mum-Ra can turn into locusts?
Yeah, he turns into that's right, he turns into a locust to eat the crops. And then Lion-O tries to fight him, gets picked up by Mum-Ra, and then thrown
dropped
into
in a
volcano.
I got ahead of myself with the giants. I totally forgot that this is where we learn another power of the sword.
So Lion-O is falling for a very long time down a volcano. And so long that Ghost Dad has time to appear, and it's like, yo.
And give him some advice.
Use the Force, Lion-O. Like, you have the Force. And he's like, I don't know if I got the Force.
Just call the sword.
He's like, just call the sword to you. You know,
yeah,
pull it to
dumb,
you.
call the sword.
And he's like, oh, all right. So then he calls the sword, and he's like, I command you to come to me. Sword comes to him, and the sword, in the goofiest animation I think I have ever seen for somebody flying with the sword, basically does like this little swoop out of the volcano.
I thought it was some of the best animation I've seen so far on this show.
It was so bad. It was just like he grabs the sword and it just like in a single frame.
I'm just wondering what the Bible for Thundercats has of what this sword can actually do, and is it just anything the user?
I view it like the
willpowers
Doctor Who wand, you know, like
the Doctor Who wand. You mean the sonic screwdriver?
What did I say?
Doctor's wand.
Yeah, right. That's like a Harry Potter wand.
Oh God.
I've only seen like one episode of Doctor Who.
Doctor Who and Harry P. They're the same, right? They got wands and they're British and
yeah, there's a joint universe, right? They're just both wizards.
We have a lot to talk about after this.
Join us for our Doctor Who podcast. I will not be a part of that. So yeah, he flies out with the sword, and then does he battle it with the giants? I can't remember if he fights the giants.
He either fights the giants. I think he fights the giants, and then the Thundercats show up in the middle of the fight because he can't handle it on his own.
He scares the giants off. That's what it is. I don't even think he fights them off. I think he scares them off again with like the weird force field power or something. He doesn't want to hurt them.
I still think the Thundercats show up.
They do show up.
Yeah.
Because the Burbles show up and basically, upon their arrival, they celebrate their victory, and the Burbles are, meanwhile, Tiger has been basically, he's like an architect, and he's like, I designed this castle. And the Burbles are like, we'll build that for you. We got nothing better going on.
We're
We
just
owe you
growing
one."
this food we don't eat.
Yeah.
Getting attacked.
So, off they go to do that.
Boom, next episode, there's a
Yeah.
fortress.
Yeah, the Slaves of Castle Plundar, episode 4. Oh,
Not only do the Thundercats get a fortress, but the mutants of Plundar get their
joy
own
sails for
castle.
everyone. Yes. Oh, so it opens up with, I believe this is the one that opens up with Wily Kit and Wily Cat, the two kids.
Is this the hoverboards?
This is the, I don't think this is the hoverboard one. I think the hoverboard was the time capsule. This one, they're just jumping through trees and they see Castle Plundar. They're like sneaking through.
Oh, that's right.
And they're trying to sneak away. And they accidentally wake up the Mucky Mutant, who in this particular moment, I realize is Simon Belmont, is a monkey from Castlevania. He's like jumping through the trees. He's using a whip, like the Morning Star. And he's got like the Simon Belmont like outfit on. And I was like, oh, this is Simon Belmont.
Maybe he thought one of them were Dracula.
He's just going
Just
after these
gunning
kids.
after him.
Yeah, and he's like making some good headway on these kids. So these kids are.
Oh, they got nothing on him. He's like sprinting these tree branches.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
He makes a reference to like, oh, you went to the trees, like
Yeah.
you shouldn't have
I
done
live
that,
in
or-
the trees. You kids got nothing on me.
he obviously doesn't live in the trees because he would just sleep on the ground. Anyways,
Yeah. So I think they end up. I think the kids. Like, I'm trying to remember if the kids even get away or if they end up like capturing the kids. But
think they get away.
I think they get away. They manage to make it back. Tell like in this episode. The thing I like the most about this episode was that this episode finally let the other Thundercats do something. Because in these first 3 episodes really was just the Lion-O show. The other Thundercats
Lot of
might show
setup
up
for Lion-O, yeah.
and they might like do something. But this was the episode where it was like, cool. The Thundercats all had somebody to fight. This castle is basically being built by these like Castle Plundar is being built by these like slave beastmen.
They're called brute men, and
Brutemen.
and there's a reference that they are not very smart tribespeople. Which
Yeah. Yeah, and
Doesn't
maybe
really-
that doesn't hold up so well.
that
but
doesn't really hold up by today's standards. I think the way they described it.
Yeah, so they basically they get pulled into that, and so the kids, so the brute men, so the kids get the Thundercats. The Thundercats show up. They're gonna free the brute men. They're fighting all the mutants, and as they're fighting the mutants, like each one kind of gets a mutant. And I actually really enjoyed this part. So you got to see like Panthar fight somebody, Chitara fight somebody, and then Tigra fight somebody.
But the best part of it was that they introduced everyone's specific fight theme.
They did. I loved Panthar's fight music.
I wrote disco influence really works with his bondage outfit.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was definitely it was when I heard it again in one of the later episodes, it sounded like very early Daft Punk. And I was like, oh, I dig this. Like this is definitely got like some disco synth pop thing going on.
Definitely in disco influence.
And I was like, oh, I love this.
Tigra's was pretty like generic, basic. Like it reminded me of something
fine.
you might hear on like the A-Team, but with some cooler synth sounds, maybe.
Yeah. And then there was Chitara. And hers took me out of the moment.
That one reminded me of like someone in a 70s or 80s movies that moves from the country to the city, and then it's their city montage of like, this is what a skyscraper looks like. This is what a hot dog tastes like.
It was whimsical.
Yeah.
It was just very like this whimsical like princess in a castle kind of. It just took me completely out of it.
Didn't work whatsoever.
No, but it's also worth noting that the voice acting in this show, while not great, a lot of it I thought was okay. Chitara's I thought was terrible. Like I don't know what like, and I don't mean to speak ill of this voice actress and stuff.
I mean, you are, but carry on.
Because I think she also voiced all the other female characters.
For season 1 in particular, I read that she voiced all female characters.
And I didn't find Wily Kit to be that bad. Like Wily Kit was fine, but Chitara, I don't know if it was like trying to do like the strong woman thing, but it was just came off like cold in reading a script. It was like, oh no, mutants are here. I better go do something. And it was just always just flat delivery, kind of didn't really have any kind of emphasis, where almost all the other actors were overemphasizing. It was like,
What do you mean, Dustin?
yeah, like Lion-O, like, how dare you look at me that way? I will absolutely win this fight. It was like over the top. So it was the first time we get to see the characters really like take on their own. And this one, we get to see the mutants' powerful gas. And what's that gas, Alex?
That is warp gas.
And what's it do?
It turns your personality and does a 180 of it. So if you are gentle and non-threatening, it makes you very violent and aggressive. If you are super courageous and heroic, it turns you into like a cowardly lion. Pun intended on the cowardly lion reference.
So we get hit with the warp gas. Does it hit? I think it hits Lion-O, right? It hits all of them.
I think it just hits the Brutemen.
It just hit the Brutemen because they do use it on the Brutemen to turn like the Brutemen against.
Yeah, because the Brutemen are pretty docile creatures, and then they get warp gassed and then become like very aggressive against Lion-O.
And I do remember that Lion-O gets overpowered by the Brutemen with extreme ease. Like,
and he's supposed to be like super strong too.
it was like literally somebody crouched behind him and the other one pushed him over, and that was like the end for like, I was like, well,
oh, that would have
down.
been the best. Oh, that would have been so much better. Just one of the Brutemen lines up perfectly behind Lion-O and the other just shoves him over.
Oh, and it was, and so, and this has one of my favorite moments. So Lion-O gets out of there, barely escapes with his life. The Brutemen's, the warp gas is faded. The Brutemen are back to being normal, docile creatures. Lion-O gets out. They're fighting the mutants. The mutants decide to hit the Brutemen again with more warp gas.
Come on, guys. Overexposure could cause cancer and other side effects.
They all look at the Thundercats watch as the Brutemen are getting more violent. And they say something about how, the Federation banned this. And they're like, we banned this. And Tigra, without missing a beat, love this part, faces the camera, looks directly at us, the audience, and he's like, rules are only meaningful if people agree to follow them. Otherwise, they are just words. And it was a straight PSA, and I loved it.
Well, the 80s was the birth of cartoons doing PSAs about, like, I don't know, don't touch the stove, it's hot.
It was great. It was so amazing.
You had mentioned something about it, and you saw this episode before I did, so when I went and watched it, I was looking out for it, and it did not disappoint with how straight into the camera he's talking.
Yeah, no,
it's like in the middle of this battle and stuff, and he has time to talk, like, say these
pauses.
2 or 3 sentences.
Everything pauses. He's got an important message.
It's like a Zach Morris timeout from Saved by the Bell. Tiger's got something to say. Time out.
Yeah, and then I did have to appreciate that the warp gas shows up, and they're trying to hit the Brutemen with it like a third time or something, and Lion-O basically just uses a force field to push it away.
Yep.
He's just like, nope, force field powered, baby.
Did he do it with the sword? Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. Can the sword move gas? It sure can. Like, yep. No.
I mean, what else can it not do?
Oh, right. What else can it not do? And that sword. And that's really kind of all I remember of that episode. I think the Brutemen go back to being docile and just kind of walk off, kind of high-fiving them, saying, thanks for the assist. And then the other ones are the other people, who am I thinking about now? I'm losing my train of thought already.
Mutants.
The mutants just flee. Yeah, they just run off with their tail between their legs.
Who fear nothing.
Who fear nothing, have now ran away for, I think, the 5th time or something, if we're keeping track.
83.
Yeah, something like that.
83 by this time.
So, those first 4 episodes, those were written by Leonard Starr. And Leonard Starr he's been around for a while. He started doing comic books in like the 40s with Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. He continued to write and do a lot of comic books. So this guy was a comic book writer. He had a lot of that comic book history, which I thought was pretty cool. And I could see its influence pretty heavily here.
Some of the world building, especially, you could tell that someone had a background in creating these stories.
We might poke fun at these episodes, but all in all, I thought these episodes were fine. They were fun. They held up okay.
Out of every we watched 7 episodes, which I think we'll probably get through a couple of the others a little quicker because they're just not as much going on.
These were kind of the world building episodes.
Yeah,
these
showing who all the characters are, the introductions, some of the mythos that we're going to investigate over the course of the series.
Yeah.
It definitely held up because you could tell it was someone that knew how to world build, like a seasoned comic book writer.
Yeah, well, and every episode kind of picked up almost immediately where the other one left off, which I thought was really cool at first because I was like, wow, I didn't see a lot of this growing up. Like, it wasn't like the turtles would fight, the Tetradome and destroy it across New York, and the next episode is them cleaning up the remains. But that's how the show, like in the first episode, you get.
And it's crazy because these episodes were airing back-to-back days. This wasn't like a once-a-week cartoon. This was literally a new episode every day of their season.
Yeah, this was an after-school, Monday through Friday, like 5 days a week. Kind of show, which props them. I mean, it's why they hired a Japanese animation studio to help kind of
keep
pump
up
the
with
stuff
the volume.
out. And but it shows, and so. Hands down, props to I do want to give props to Leonard Starr, who I think he may have passed away a few years ago, but like those episodes I felt were good and strong, and I was like, you know what, it wasn't hard for me to rewatch them. Like, don't get me wrong, the animation doesn't quite hold up, it's
and the dialogue is a bit
the dialogue is clunky.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. It's the music
sword's
though,
power,
still great.
The music is probably that, and the intro are probably two of the best things.
Amazing. But then we get into these next 3 episodes. These were not written by Leonard Starr, and I had to go back and check on that today because I am not going to lie, I had a hard time getting through these episodes.
I think with these ones we should just do like the greatest hits of the episodes versus like a full walkthrough because most of these can be summed up in like a quick sentence or two.
Sure.
So let's move on to the time capsule, and I'll just do a quick, like, one sentence what the episode was about. Pretty much the time capsule was about they find out that there's a time capsule that was on board their ship that crashed, but it got thrown from the ship. And I think it's Yaga, Ghost Dad, that explains to Lion-O that it's still somewhere on the planet. And so everyone goes to look for it. And so it's all these little side quests where each character goes off alone, fights a random thing, and Lion-O has the world's greatest ending ever, finding the time capsule, and how he gets it is pretty amazing. Very, very 80s way of getting something.
So, that said, can we talk real quick about what everyone had to fight?
Yes. So, Tigra, I actually don't know if I wrote every single one of these down, so I'm going to go from pure memory.
All right.
Tigra was the Mole Master.
Tigra was a Mole Master underground, and it was a whip-off.
Yeah.
They both had whips.
Yeah. I really wish Devo had played.
Whip it.
And then Chitara was it looked like a Chinese dragon, creature.
Yeah. Who she single-handedly kind of gets rid of well within, a whole fight is probably less than a minute. It just happens so quick.
And part of it is she just runs. Yeah. She just runs using lily pads.
Yeah, she does kind of an Ouroboros, right? She makes it eat itself and just
bites its own tail, and it's all like no,
and it just falls. And I was like, oh, that's that. It wasn't nearly as fun as the whip off.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Panthros
was my favorite.
Crab.
It was a crab man wearing the similar bondage type gear that Panthro wears, but he has the head of a crab, sorta, and then claws.
Panthro beats the crab, gets in his tank, runs off, and the crab is seen in the distance shaking an angry claw. And I loved it.
No, the crab was by far the one I wrote down because that was my favorite. But Lion-O's, his is more like him and Snarf going off on a D&D mission because there's a
unicorn and a wizard.
Yeah, there's a unicorn and some old lady by the river with the unicorn that you assume is some sort of witch
the River
or sorceress.
of Despair, I think?
River of Despair is the name of the river.
Yeah.
He goes across it in this weird light bridge. And that's where Dustin and I got to witness the world's greatest character creation of all.
Oh, my God. I love the Black Widow shark.
It literally is a shark that jumps out of the water. And then you're like, why does it have 8 legs? And it's like, it's a Black Widow shark. Sure, that makes sense.
I can't begin to describe like Alex told me this. He watched the episode ahead of time, and he's like, "Have you seen the Black Widow shark yet?" And I was like, "What? No." And he's like, "I can't."
I had to pause it, and I rewinded a few seconds so I could see it jump out of the water again, because it's the... I am sorry, animators, but it might be one of the dumbest character designs in that show I saw.
It looked like something I would design when I was like 6 or 7 years old. It's like, all right, so I'm gonna make a shark, and it's gonna have 8 legs.
What's scarier than a shark?
But they're gonna have like tiny legs. They were like tiny legs. It wasn't like I could
This
see,
shark skips leg day.
yeah
every week.
Yeah, this shark has never been on land. Those legs are just for show.
Yeah, they're atrophied.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be great to see him on land.
Just trying to crawl
Can't move.
away.
Also, it's a shark. He has gills. Can he also breathe on land? Like, it's just... He's obviously not using these to... I just... Ugh.
That shark. This whole episode was just comedic. And then he finally finds the time capsule. It's in
like
the cave.
Yeah, it's in a cave.
With which I wrote here, future caveman.
Well, technically, if Earth was recycling over after apocalypses, then eventually there could be new cavemen, because everything would have to, like, the cycle.
Yeah.
So there could be, yeah.
So he wants to get the time capsule back. And the caveman's like, no, you can't.
We gotta do something.
Yeah, we need a contest of champions, because clearly you are a buff lion man and I am a buff caveman.
So how are we going to settle this if we're both champions in our own right as giant, muscly buff dudes?
It's only one way to do it.
Arm wrestle.
Oh, and it is just as good as you want it to be.
Oh, there's like close-ups of like both of their
arm wrestling.
biceps and their faces, and you're just seeing like Lion-O just like his hulking
Going back
arm.
and forth.
Yeah, it was very stressful for me.
The other Thundercats show up and like, should we help him? And Panther's like, no, this is a one-on-one.
He's got to do this on his own.
Yeah. Oh man, that whole scene was crazy.
And then the best is, then he wins. Caveman like nods and like, yep, this is yours.
Mm-hmm.
Walks off, and then they talk about opening the time capsule, and they're like, we'll wait. After all this. And the time capsule is supposed to have like images and things of Thundera to like, things to learn about and maybe quote unquote revisit their home planet in a weird way, like virtually or something. And
I kind of see some backstory on like the planet and stuff. And we don't get none of that.
Then they make a joke, they all laugh, and credits come up, and you're like, what?
Yep. So we skipped. That was episode, I think, 15. We skipped pretty far. We decided to watch the last 2 episodes of season 1. There were so many episodes that there was no way we were going to be able to do this series a lot of justice on this podcast, and we recognize that.
Yeah,
so bear.
130 episodes, and 65 of which are just in the first season.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, like for anyone listening, please bear with us. This is not like a comprehensive, your end all be all Thundercats guy.
If you did that though, that could be an entire podcast in itself.
Oh, it had to break apart like each episode. But this really isn't just meant to be kind of a, hey, let's have fun poking, let's poke into the Thundercats lore a little bit and see what we can do.
So the reason we chose the 2 last episodes, we're thinking that it might set up season 2 like most series do, where they try and leave a cliffhanger or something going, and
we were wrong.
Yeah, Thundercats let us down on that.
So again, it's funny because I went back after the fact, after I watched these episodes, but there are episodes that Leonard Starr is attached to, and he wrote like a series of 5 episodes. I think they're like the 5 trials, the anointment trials.
It's where Lion-O actually he has to earn his title of Lord of Thundercats.
Yeah. And he wrote those episodes, and those episodes are supposed to be fairly good. And if they're anything like the first 4, I'm sure probably a little corny by today's standard, but I'm sure they probably hold up.
I bet they're interesting because they start showing
right.
some of their extra powers. Like that's where Tiger uses his mind power during some of the trials. And they even include Wile E. Kit and Kat, and they do the Trial of Cunning is one of their big roles.
Yeah, so that part seems cool. Like, man, I really wish we watched those episodes, because these episodes, these were tough.
Oh, by the way, the Trial of Speed is Chitara, and it's literally just a race. I read something about it.
Oh, I think they
go on a race, and Lion-O is like, yeah, I can't beat her, so I'm going to go this other way and sort of cheat, but take a harder path. Anyways, just... The trials sound fun and silly at the same time.
Yeah. It's like the Superman versus Flash race. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, I can appreciate that. Yeah.
Only she's Flash and Superman because he's nowhere near as fast as her.
I do wish that like we watched those episodes because, so we got to episode 64, which is the Switcher.
Oh, the Shifter.
Oh, so I wrote that wrong. So, yeah, that episode.
Do you want to do the one sentence or should I?
Oh, you do it by all means.
So this one is a Freaky Friday where Snarf and Panthora get body swapped. That's it. That is the entire episode. And then the same tech is used on, I always get them backwards. Is it Wily Kit or Cat is the male?
I think Cat's the male.
Wily Cat and Lion-O end up doing a body swap. And then two of the mutants do a body swap.
Vulture Man.
Actually, all of the mutants do body swaps.
Yeah, I was going to say they all get swapped at one point. Slythe and...
is it Jackalman?
Jackalman, I think.
It's like Jackalman. It's real
Yeah,
silly.
they get switched, and then Vulture Man later gets switched with one of them.
The ape.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. It's just the entire episode is how useless Snarf is, regardless of what kind of body you give him. And it's just Freaky Friday left and right.
Yeah, this episode, the only thing to really make note here was there were two things that I thought was kind of funny is they definitely reused the monkey mutant falling shot off the bridge.
Oh, where you redo the animation and it's literally the exact same.
It was like the exact same. And it wouldn't have been so bad if it wasn't just minutes after the fact. And so
he gets knocked off a bridge into some water, and they literally
show him to climb back up, get knocked back into the water, and it's like the same animation.
You think they could have just like rotated him something the opposite way to make it look a little different?
These episodes felt rather lazy, and in this last part, which is I wrote, they really ex machina the hell out of that. The Deus Ex Machina, like the way that everyone gets back into their original bodies is simply they shoot the ray at the sword, and the sword just fixes everybody. Not the mutants.
But it's weird too because the gun they use to do the body swap also functions as an actual gun.
Yeah,
it has multiple settings, I guess, but one of which is a body swap. This one features Panthro and Snarf need to get somewhere or do something, and the Panthro has to try and give Snarf a driver's ed lesson. That's real dumb.
Yeah, it's like Snarf's a shit driver. I wrote that.
The tiger, or then the Thunder Tank ends up flipping, like falling off a cliff and flipping over, trapping Snarf in Panthra's body. But the best, my favorite, is Lion-O comes in there and literally just grabs it and flips it over himself. And I'm like, this is the same Thunder Tank that flipped over there and unburied their ship. So it's super powerful. Yet Lion-O by himself could just flip the tank over like it was nothing. It's like the first time you see him be, or at least the first time for us, seeing him do something insanely strong.
Yeah. Well, I think he's done strong things as long as he's got the gauntlet equipped, the shield. I think if he's wearing that, he's like, I think we've seen him like climb walls and other things. Like,
yeah, but this is like
in hand in wall.
This is like pure strength, like brute strength.
Oh, for sure. I think that's pretty much the only thing really worth mentioning on that episode. There really wasn't. I didn't have a whole lot else on that one.
The very clever mutant name, Vulture Man.
Vulture Man, who is
a
man
man and a vulture
who flies a vulture plane.
Yes, he's the one that creates the mutant tech to do the body swap.
Yeah.
Which again, the gun has it's like the sword. What can that gun do? Anything.
Anyway. So then we get to the final episode, episode 65, Fond Memories. This episode had so many holes in it that I couldn't even begin.
The Swiss cheese of episodes.
There was so much.
Should I do that? Do you want to do the sentence?
Oh, please. I don't even know how we sum this up in one sentence.
I can.
Go for it.
Batshit. The gist of this is, I forget how Lion-O gets in the cavern. Oh, he gets tricked because, that's right, Mumra turns into a familiar person that I'm not familiar with because it was in another episode, and then leads Lion-O to a cave where he's like, we're going to set up this museum, and it's all of like Lion-O's greatest hits of villains. And then the villains come out of the painting and attack Lion-O. Thundercats show up. It's pretty silly. Lion-O ends up fighting a doppelganger of himself who's actually Mumra, defeats him with his own reflection again.
Yeah. So here's where all the holes come in, though.
I
Because
think
there's-
even what I said had holes in it.
Right. So first of all, I just wanted to bring up the guy Mumra parades around as is Dr. Dome something or other.
Yeah, from I'm assuming an episode that we just didn't watch.
An underwater episode apparently because of the Oceanic Plug, and I wrote Oceanic Plug with a question mark. I was like, is that like a plug for the ocean? Like if somebody,
Like a bathtub?
yeah, you just unplug it, like, oh, there goes our ocean. Shoot.
Oh man, then I get the existential question of like, well, where does the ocean water go? Oh, it cools down the core, destroying third Earth. Fourth Earth comes back.
Yeah, that Oceanic Plug is apparently crucial. So the episode opens, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, this is a good finale episode because Mumra's sitting there and he's giving he's speaking to himself.
His villain exposition.
Yeah, villain exposition, and he's like, I am going to use Lionel's vanity to his harm. I'm going to open this museum, and I'm going to have Slife with the warp gas. And he's like, starts to name off all the villains he's going to have. And I'm like, oh, cool, we're going to see a lot of villains. This is gonna be great. Some Spider Queen. And I was like, okay, Ratar, the king of the mutants, I guess.
He was the mutant's most powerful warrior.
Yeah.
Which then later, when you see him fight, you're like, he walks like 5 feet the whole time during the fight and just uses weapons.
Right. And then Safari Joe.
Best name ever. He looks exactly what you think, a bald safari-looking guy.
Oh, who came out first, Safari Joe or Kraven the Hunter?
I think it was Safari Joe.
Safari Joe, yeah, Kraven the Hunter. I have to look on the Spider-Man villain. I don't know quite the history of Kraven the Hunter, but I'd be curious to see when he came out.
I didn't even. Sorry, my mind didn't even connect to that. I have no idea. Sorry, I was
Yeah.
thinking something else.
No, yeah. So I'm just
Drinking
curious.
a lot of water right now, so
So we get to Mumra is like, I'm gonna trap him in with these 3 villains, and I was like, oh, just these 3, huh? Or 4, rather.
a literal rogues gallery because all of these are paintings
Yeah.
that the villains come out of.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like a group of mutants. He's like, I just want Slife with the warp gas. So then he traps Lion-O in the cave. Fine, whatever. He proceeds to send out Safari Joe, and it's here I realize I'm like, wow, really, Mumra? You're gonna do these one at a time? And meanwhile, like Lion-O is standing in front of Mumra, trying to protect like him because he still like dresses as his friend. And I'm like, Mumra, attack, do something, like become Mumra the Ever Living, like
He
join
literally
in.
could have just pulled out a sword
And just
stabbed
shaked him in the behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's step 1. It's like, hey, you got Lion-O right here in front of you. Safari Joe's shooting at him. Like, stab
Maybe
him.
Mumra liked the view too much. You know what I mean?
Oh. So this episode, it's just like, so finally he defeats Safari Joe. Safari Joe gets thrown back into the painting. Next one comes out. So, you think, hey, Spider Queen. Nope, we get like Ratar, the king, the warrior of the mutants. They duke it out, and he's got like these 2 little daggers that shoot lasers, and
He
Lion-O's
just uses. I don't even understand how he's the best warrior of the mutants when all he does is like take 5 feet from the painting and just start using laser daggers.
Lion-O at one point picks him up and just chucks him back into the painting. And then Mumra decides, you know what? I'm going to become Mumra the Ever Living now. And they're like, I'll just fight you myself, which kind of puts holes into his whole plan. Like, he could have tag teamed him. He could have done something. Nope. So then he's got Slife. I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to pull out the mutant. Nope, just grabs the warp gas in Slife's hand, hits Lion-O with it, and Lion-O becomes cowardly and basically runs off into the cave.
See, now my cowardly lion pun from earlier totally makes sense now.
Yeah. And so...
Or foreshadowing more than anything. Yeah, foreshadowing.
Meanwhile, we've got Snarf, who's now found the Thundercats, and he's like, Thundercats, we need to go. They like, go rescue Lion-O. And it's like, okay. They show up, they see the paintings, and they're like, oh, we have to go into these paintings and find Lion-O.
Which is an assumption right there.
Right. There's nothing to say that they've done this. But then they decide to split up. And this part cracked me up. Where I was like, okay, me, Chitara, and Tigra, the adults, we're going to go take the tank and go fight the Spider Queen. Hey, kids, go handle Safari Joe.
By yourselves.
By yourselves. So they go into the cave. Like, they go into the paintings, right? And the 2 kids immediately get captured by, like, Safari Joe. It takes, like, Safari Joe, like,
2 seconds, and they're literally 2 cats in a bag.
2 cats, yeah. He's got them in a bag, and he's holding them up, and they're, like, stuck in the painting. Meanwhile, They drive a tank to a spider. The spider just webs them, and they're like, "No, we're trapped." End of that. Right? So they did nothing. They contributed.
They brought nothing to the party.
Nothing at all. If anything, they've made the situation so much worse. It is terrible.
And all the while, Lionel is still cowardly.
Yeah, the gas eventually wears off. He once again shows his Mumra's reflection, then does the whole like sword into the paintings and freeze the.
You forgot the whole battle. The doppelganger battle was before this.
That's true. That's true. That is actually a good battle.
I actually did write down that it was a sweet doppelganger.
It was
battle.
a sweet. You're right. You're right. I did skip that part. So yeah, Mumra drops a statue of Lionel down from the ceiling that apparently he had the whole time, and then proceeds to become Lionel's doppelganger, and
but
not
all
just
in red clothing.
yeah, and not just copying him, but also like the Sword of Omens. They have a grappling hook fight.
Yeah,
Like, they're swinging and they're grappling. Like honestly, that fight was not bad. Like that fight, I thought was pretty good.
And Mumra is winning most of the time until Ghost Dad shows up.
Yeah, Ghost Dad shows up and speaks in a riddle. I'm like, why, Ghost Dad?
Now's not the time.
Now's not
what
the
do
time
I do?
for your riddles. And it's like, he's like a mirror version of yourself. Wink, wink. Hey.
And mirror.
Mirror. And Lionel's like, I got it. Mirror. Ha ha. And then like hits Mumra with that. Mumra freaks out, does the whole thing.
And then Lionel cuts everyone out of the painting.
Cuts everyone out of the painting. And then they make some stupid joke again. Well, actually, what's funny is that it segues. Like, that would have been a fine place to end it, but they don't. They go back to the castle, their castle, the cat castle with a giant cat head on top, which...
I actually forget what it's called. Cat Fortress, Thunder Fortress.
Like that. The cat lair. I think it's the cat lair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Sure.
Yeah. And they get back there, and it's like, all right, Snarf, now that we killed, now we defeated all the gallery.
We can have some fun.
We can have some fun. Which, by the way, they reference the fact that they went in and fought both Safari Joe and the Spider Queen again, and they beat them and put them away. And it's like, you did that off screen? Like, that was... okay, And he's like, now we can have fun. And Snarf's like, no, I don't want to. Snarf. And it's like, ha, 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 ha. End of episode. There were so many holes with this episode. I couldn't write down, like, I almost used like 2 pages trying to write down just like, what is going on in this episode? Like, why?
Are you really upset because there actually wasn't enough Snarf?
He was just so incompetent.
And they never got to have fun?
There is an episode about Snarf's family that I was like, oh, we should go back and rewatch that.
No. Because I'm going to find out that he's not the worst one of them.
He's got a real racist uncle. And you're like, oh, this is
racist
terrible.
Against Thundercats.
So that was, our interpretation of the first season. And again, I do want to give credit where credit's due. I think the Leonard Starr episodes are good. And I think those episodes in particular, at least the first 4, I thought, given the time frame and everything else, I thought they held up just fine.
Yeah, the first 4 I thought were fine. Like, the world building was interesting and cool. Yeah, the others just, ugh. They just seem like filler episodes that didn't add a whole lot to anything. But, I mean, when you're doing 130 episodes spread out over a couple years, like, there's going to be a lot of those. So
given what you know today, well, let's talk real quick as we wrap this up, the continuation in other media, like where else, like what happened with Thundercats afterwards, which there was actually a pretty sweet 2011 cartoon series that
which
came
we
out.
Did watch, like, we kind of jumped around an episode, but we mainly wanted to watch the intro to see how they revamped it. And sad to say, I'm thinking the show didn't work because there was no intro.
Yeah, they did miss out on having like a cool intro, but and the animation was incredible. And
yeah, definitely was working at a 2011 standards.
And the fight scenes were amazing. Like, we watched one where it was like Panthro and played by Kevin Michael Richardson, and then he had like an old war buddy played by the great Clancy Brown.
Yeah, they definitely got some like solid voice
talent,
acting.
and they were like clocking each other in the face, and it was like you could feel the weight with the hits.
Fun fact about the 2011 series that I did read was that the actor who played Lion-O comes back the same actor, he comes back and voices Lion-O's dad in the first 2 episodes.
Does he?
Yeah, which I thought was kind of cool.
That's Will Friedle. I think that's Terry McGinnis, right? That's
I think that's who you were pretty sure it was.
Yeah,
I just went by sound.
Yeah, phenomenal act. Yeah, no, strong voice cast, beautiful animation. It unfortunately went the way of Young Justice. It got canceled due to toy sales. Yeah, which is unfortunate because, So
we get 130 episodes of the original Thundercats and then the modern version, which is legit solid.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's not forget, though, the Thundercats did take that show on the road and they went live. They did a live stage show at
Was
Madison
it on the
Gardens.
road or was it just in New York?
I have no idea.
Because the one you showed me the commercial and it was Thundercats live at Madison Square Garden, and it's
a thing of nightmares.
It is scary. It's like Cats the musical.
Yeah, which is funny because it does have it's got a lot of cats. It's got Karate Cat. It's got
Gumby and Pokey.
Gumby and Pokey are in there.
Some street dancing frog.
I would recommend if you get a chance to just go look up that commercial. It's about 30 seconds long.
Yeah, Thundercats live, Madison Square Garden. Well, that'll definitely get you.
I think the Silverhawks are there.
I mean, everyone's there.
Oh, it's got a whole thing.
Oh, Silverhawks. That's a banging intro as well.
Yeah, well, that was with the composer. The other stuff that he's done, he did do the Silverhawks intro, which is also really good.
If you get a chance, just check out the intro.
Yeah. We'll probably get around to Silverhawks someday, but what's next, Alex? What are we going to venture into after this?
What are we going to tune into next?
What are we tuning into next?
Old football head. Hey Arnold himself. It's our first venture into Nicktoons, so we decided to ease ourselves in with maybe a newer one than one of the originals. A little Hey Arnold.
Did you ever watch a lot of Hey Arnold?
Some. I caught it here and there.
I think I've only seen 2 or 3 episodes.
I've definitely seen more than that.
So this will be an interesting venture, I think, into these Nicktoons.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we revisited some one night to check out, and some of the first ones were a little rough around the edges. Mainly Doug. But yeah, so next episode will be Hey Arnold.
Let's do it. All right. Well, I think that about wraps up. Anything else you want to touch on Thundercats?
Just one last time. Thundercats!
Ho! Thanks for tuning in. Tune in for what? And we will catch you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. We would love to hear your thoughts, feedbacks, and what cartoons from your past you would like us to check out next. Please hit us up on Facebook and Twitter at TuneInForWhat, and we hope to catch you next week. Take care.